Welcome to another deep dive. We go deep so you don't have to, right?
That's the idea.
Today we're looking at Leland R. Beaumont's The Reformation Workshop, subtitle, A Story of Intentional Transformation.
Sounds ambitious.
It is, but it's not just some pie-in-the-sky manifesto, right?
No, not at all.
It's a practical guide for, how we can actually make things better, both personally and for society as a whole.
That's right. And it all starts with, looking inward.
So should we just jump right into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, Chapter 1, Preparing for the Journey. Beaumont really lays the groundwork here, emphasizing that real change, lasting change, starts with us.
With, our own inner landscape, how we think, how we react to things.
Yeah, and that sense of responsibility, too, like owning our part in things.
Exactly. He asks this big question right up front. What ought we do?
Oh.
And I think he's challenging us to actually visualize a better future.
Not just wish for it, but picture it, concretely.
Absolutely. And then to have the courage to actually go after it.
Because, let's face it, this Reformation stuff, it's not going to be easy.
It's going to take work, for sure. And it's not a solo mission either. Beaumont makes that really clear. We need to find our people, build alliances.
Those who share the same vision.
Yeah. And even when things get tough, when progress is slow, it's about holding on to that feeling that we can still make a difference.
That we have agency.
That's it. Okay, on to Chapter 2. Truth and the information we share. Wow. Talk about a hot topic, especially these days.
No kidding. Beaumont really gets into the weeds here on misinformation, how it spreads, how it divides us.
That's like a virus, really. And he argues that any meaningful reform has to start with how we understand truth itself.
With what we know and how we know it.
Right. He's basically saying, look, if we can't agree on what's real, how can we possibly build a better future together?
Good point. So what's the antidote to this misinformation virus? What does Beaumont prescribe?
He lays out a few things. Intellectual honesty, first and foremost. Being willing to challenge our own assumptions.
Being able to navigate the information landscape effectively.
Yeah. And holding journalism to a higher standard.
Even reforming social media.
He goes there too.
So it's a pretty comprehensive approach to how we consume and share information.
It is. And I love this line. Seek true beliefs, not convenient ones.
That's powerful.
It's about prioritizing accuracy over comfort and recognizing that we all have influence, whether we realize it or not.
And that comes with responsibility.
Absolutely. And this ties in nicely with his vision for education, which is, well, much broader than what we typically think of.
It's not just about memorizing facts.
No, it's about a lifelong pursuit of knowledge, shared learning, focused on finding truth, not reinforcing what we already believe.
So we can make better decisions, both individually and as a society. Makes sense.
Right. Okay, moving on to Chapter 3. Beliefs that guide us. This is where things get really personal.
Because our beliefs shape everything, don't they? Our values, our trust, what we strive for.
Exactly. And Beaumont makes a crucial distinction here. He's not saying we have to abandon faith.
He's saying we need to deepen it and make sure it aligns with reality.
Right. That our worldviews are grounded in something solid. And this idea of real good religion is fascinating.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Well, he's not talking about a specific religion, but more like the core principles that should guide any ethical system.
Like what?
Compassion, courage, and truth. Those are the big ones. And it's about living those out, actively, as opposed to operating from fear, division, and control.
And those beliefs, they don't stay in a vacuum, do they?
Not at all. They influence our actions, how we interact with others, and ultimately they shape society as a whole.
So reforming our beliefs, as Beaumont suggested, has huge implications.
Definitely. Okay, Chapter 4, Governance with Purpose. Oh boy, are you ready for this one?
This is where things get potentially controversial.
But Beaumont approaches it in a really interesting way. He frames governance as a necessity. Like, we need it to function as a society.
Even if it often feels broken or distant.
Right. He's not saying it's perfect, but it's what we've got. And so we need to work towards what he calls good government.
Defined by integrity, competence, and actually caring about the well-being of people.
Exactly. It's about unity, too. Recognizing that we're all in this together.
And not just accepting the status quo.
He specifically calls for an evolution of governance to better meet the needs of a changing world.
Which means we need to be flexible and adapt.
Absolutely. And underpinning all of this is a strong emphasis on human rights.
As a non-negotiable foundation. Everywhere.
Everywhere. And he reframes these concepts like democracy, justice, collective problem solving, not as outdated ideals, but as essential plans for a functional future.
Tools, really.
Right. Okay, chapter 5. Rethinking money. Now, this one's a real head-scratcher.
Beaumont really throws down the gauntlet here, challenging us to fundamentally reconsider the nature of money itself.
Yeah, he's not messing around. He argues that money should serve human flourishing, not the other way around.
Which is a pretty radical departure from how we typically think about it.
It is. He dives into some big questions, too, like how we deal with abundance, how we distribute resources fairly and wisely.
And the need to eliminate the economic faults that keep people trapped in poverty and exploitation.
That's right. And his ultimate point is that money, just like our technology and our understanding of the world, needs to evolve to better reflect our values.
To support shared prosperity, sustainability, and the inherent dignity of all people.
Exactly. Okay, brace yourself. Chapter 6 is a tough one. Facing the grand challenges.
This is where Beaumont gets real about the major issues facing humanity. Climate change, poverty, misinformation, political polarization, it's a long list.
And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He acknowledges the enormity of these challenges.
Hmm.
But he also reminds us that we're not powerless.
That collective action is essential, both at the local level, doing good now in our communities, and at the global level, working towards long-term systemic solutions.
It's about finding that balance between immediate action and strategic planning for the future.
And community work is crucial, he says. Grassroots efforts that lay the groundwork for larger change.
Right, and confronting these challenges not with despair, but with deliberate, coordinated action.
And he circles back to the importance of human rights here, connecting it directly to our ability to overcome these challenges together.
He ends this chapter with a message of hope, though, emphasizing that these problems are not insurmountable, that we can solve them if we work together.
Okay, on to the final chapter, intentional evolution. This is where it all comes together.
Beaumont frames all the reforms he's discussed as part of a larger conscious process of humanity choosing its own path.
As opposed to just letting evolution happen randomly.
Right. He contrasts flourishing of the wisest with survival of the fittest, which is pretty profound.
It is. And he reminds us that we have the ability to shape our future ethically, creatively, courageously.
It's about taking responsibility for our collective destiny.
And he offers a hopeful message that we're not doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past, that progress is possible, necessary even.
Okay, so he brings it all home in the final section, the story we are writing.
He presents the Reformation Workshop not just as a set of recommendations, but as a vision, a movement, a shared narrative.
Yeah. He acknowledges that it's a huge undertaking, long and challenging, but ultimately achievable.
Because these are human-made systems we're talking about, which means we can change them.
Right. And his final call to action is so powerful. He urges us to live the story, to be active participants in building a future worthy of our highest hopes.
Together. So there you have it, Beaumont's The Reformation Workshop, a blueprint for intentional change, starting with ourselves and rippling outward to encompass information, beliefs, governance, economics, even our approach to global challenges.
And at the heart of it all is this idea of collective action and the power of conscious effort to shape a better future for everyone.
So here's a question for you, our listener. Beaumont emphasizes that individual preparation is the first step in this whole Reformation process. So what's one small but meaningful change you could make in your own life today? An internal reformation, so to speak. How could that one small act contribute to the larger vision that Beaumont lays out?
It's something to think about. And maybe exploring the Reformation Workshop further will spark some ideas.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.